Alright, we're going to take a look at the unit circle here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically fill in the degrees and radians for you, and then tomorrow in class I'm going to show you how to use it. Okay, but first of all, just what is a unit circle? Well, basically it's a circle that we've put on the XY axis that has a radius of 1 unit. So the distance from the center out to the edge of the circle is 1 unit. So all of these lines that I have on here are 1 unit long. Okay. Now it turns out that whenever we put the circle on the XY axis, all these points I have here are actually coordinates in the XY plane. So what I'm going to talk about in class tomorrow is how to find what these coordinates actually are based on the information that we're given. So let's just start out though with filling in the degree measures for the unit circle. So as down here at the bottom, the circles are going to be degrees, the squares are going to be radians. I'm going to go ahead and split this circle into 2 here because we're going to put 2 angles that are there. But when I do this, I'm going to do all these angles in standard position, and we're going to go around in the counterclockwise direction, which means they're going to be positive. So just like yesterday in class, we had a 0 degree angle. Now if you remember, 0 degrees, remember standard position, the initial side is on the positive x-axis, and then my terminal side determines my angle. So like here for this one, you know, that right there is an angle. If I move it up to here, I now have another angle. Here I now have another angle, and so on. Okay, so that was 0 degrees. This angle is actually 30 degrees. And then we go 45, 60. When we get to the top, we're at 90. Moving over into quadrant 2, we're 120, 135, 150. And then when we get all the way over to this side, we're at 180. And then continuing to move around down in quadrant 3, we go to, let's see, 210. Forgot my mind there for a minute. 225, 240, and then we're 270 down here at the bottom. And then we go 300, 315, 330, and then 360 as we get all the way back around. Now, there's really no trick to learning those, whatever, you just got to know them. Okay. I guess one thing you could do is, if you look at these 30, 45, and 60, if you know the first quadrant, you really know the rest of the circle, because you could do it based off of reference angles. A 30 degree, the reference angle for that, 150. They both have the same reference angle. You could kind of look at it from that perspective, but basically I just really try to remember what they are. Okay, now let's do the radians. Now for the radians, and here again I'm going to split this box because we have 2 radian measures that go there. The radians, all we're doing is converting these just like I showed you in class today. So basically we're going to multiply by pi over 180, which really what that means is divide by 180 and then reduce it and then put pi with it. Okay, so that's what we're going to really do as we move around our unit circle here. So we'll start out with 0. 0 is still 0. 30 is going to turn out to be pi over 6. 45 is going to be pi over 4 if we converted that. 60 is pi over 3. 60 divided by 180. And just to show you what I'm doing here, really just 30 divided by 180. Okay, and then math, fraction, that's 1/6, so I made that pi over 6. Or 45 divided by 180. Oops. Math, fraction, that's 1/4, so I made that pi over 4. So moving on around, 90 would be pi over 2. 120, that would come out to be 2 pi over 3. And then 135 would be 3 pi over 4. 150, let's see, 150 divided by 180. Math, that's 5 pi over 6. And then we know at 180 it comes out to be pi. Okay, so moving on around, 210 divided by 180, 7 pi over 6. 225 divided by 180, 5 pi over 4, And 240 divided by 180 is 4 pi over 3. And then 270 is 3 pi over 2. That's 1.5 pi. Move it up so you guys can see there. 300 is 5 pi over 3. 315, 7 pi over 4. 330, I believe that's 11 pi over 6. And it is 11 pi over 6. And then when you get back here, you're at 2 pi. Okay. Now, so there's your degrees and your radians. Now, one thing that I've done before to remember my radian measures, what I've done is I've put them into fractions out of 12, and then I've reduced them. And just let me show you that little trick here, just so you can see it, because it might be a way for you to remember these. I mean, if you know the degrees, you can always convert it and get your radians. But one thing that I've done with the radians is I've started, and I've put these as fraction out of 12, and I've started as, I'm going to write them right here, is 2 pi over 12. Okay, so I start with 2, and I do 2 pi over 12. If you reduce that, you get pi over 6. And then I'll go 3 pi over 12. If you reduce that, you get pi over 4. And then 4 pi over 12. If you reduce that, you get pi over 3. Now, after I do 2, 3, 4, I skip prime numbers. Now, prime numbers are any number that can be divisible. It's a number that's divisible by 1 in itself. So we went 2, 3, 4. Now we get to 5. 5 is prime, so I'm going to skip it. I'm going to do 6 pi over 12, which reduces to pi over 2. 7 is prime, so I'm going to skip it. I'm going to go 8, 9, and 10. And notice if I reduce these, I get my fractions here. 11 is prime, so we go to 12. 13 is prime, so I go 14, 15, 16, and again, if I reduce those, I'm getting my radian measures. 17 is prime, so I'm going to skip it. I'll go 18. 19 is prime, so we go 20. 21. 22. 23 is prime, and we go 24 over 12. And that gets me all my radian measures. And again, you have to reduce those, but that's just sort of a little shortcut, little trick to get your radian measures there if you don't want to convert it from your degrees. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to show you how to use this. What we're going to do tomorrow is I'm going to show you how to get the coordinates. Like I'll show you how to get what this point is, its x and its y coordinate, and we'll do that all the way around, and I'll show you how to use sine, cosine, and tangent with the unit circle.